Hey, everybody, you're listening to and watching the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Brian Pittard.
I'm Steve Morey.
Oh no, the
Oh
demons
no,
got
he's
him.
frozen.
No.
No. Oh.
It wouldn't be back from hibernation without some AV technical difficulties.
And that's Caleb Alexander McKenzie, and we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You're hairy, heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy homo to listen in, or in this case, stream in. As you can see here, we're having a bit of a technical problem with Caleb. We're hoping that he'll come back online. And, you know, as attractive as he is, I would rather not see him frozen. So as soon as that gets going, it gets
You wouldn't
going.
take like a Caleb Carbonite standee for your bedroom? I mean,
Depends. It depends.
fully
Okay.
articulated.
I just got a
Fully.
ping from him saying that his internet crashed as soon as we started, so hopefully
Oh,
he'll
no.
be jumping back on soon. So how you
Kung
guys
Fu
doing? This has
action
been the longest break we've had since the start of the pandemic. We
Oh
were
my
gone,
God.
like,
It
I
has.
want to say 5 weeks, either
It
4
was
or
it
5
was
weeks.
definitely over a month. Our
It was
last
over a
show
month.
was right before Christmas.
Was the 21st,
Yeah,
and we're now here on January
27th.
Thursday, the
The
27th.
27th.
How you guys doing? Oh,
I
I'm so
mean,
glad.
Here we go.
all
I
things
am not.
notwithstanding.
Yeah,
Yeah, oh, no.
I'm not doing good. You know, it was it really hit me today that, you know, with working from home, it's been Groundhog Day. You know, it's the same thing again and again. I have some new responsibilities. I'm effectively chief of staff starting next week at work. Uh, so, you know, that's gonna give some flavor to it, but it just really the last 2 days it just got to me, you know.
Mental
Oof.
health in this
Yeah.
time of year, or not this time of year, but this time of year on top of
Yeah.
this current surrounding pandemic nonsense, it's
Mhm.
hard. A lot of people who
Yeah.
have the luxury of working from home, like we do, need outlets to make their life a little less
Mhm.
monotonous, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, you got this, but I mean,
Yeah.
anything else? Like, I mean, I don't like right now going out into the wild world and dealing with people as much. But I've
Yeah.
got my curling, and the curling is actually really helped me feel a little better about this. You know,
Mhm.
Yeah. I have to say, like, I've drastically cut down on the amount of time that I'm outside right now, and though it does seem where I am over in New Jersey that Omicron appears to have spiked. Um, Yeah, you know, I I don't want to get it. You know, I don't
Yeah.
care if it ends up being mild. You know, I'm
are
still in
we
a hell of a lot of high risk categories. So
are we all three in the no COVID club? I'm just going to out us if I mean, if you
Yeah.
don't want to
yeah,
admit it.
yeah, none of us have
Yeah,
had
no
it.
COVID.
Wow,
Haven't had
that's
it.
so
Yeah.
interesting. I love that,
No.
but I'm also like, I know so many people who have had it.
Oh, yeah.
multiple
Yeah.
times.
The I've had it once and now I'm immune. That went out the window
Yeah.
like first year. I mean, basically, there are people who have now had it like 3 times. The people who had it at the start and didn't want to get it and were trying to keep take all the precautions are the ones who are best at trying to avoiding it getting a second time. Because they've had it, they don't want to have it again, and they know that it's serious. And if they had it once and it was like nothing, it doesn't matter if it's like, because the next time is not going to be nothing usually.
Yeah.
I will tell you though, I really want to go to a concert like so bad. There was a Bjork. One of my friends saw Bjork play in LA. I'm just so jealous. And like, I have all these plans coming up in the year to go do this. I was going to go to see Letterkenny in March. They canceled their thing. They might be Giants. They postponed. I mean, all of this just.
Yeah, I'm coming into concerts that were postponed that I'm worried are going to be postponed another time.
Yeah.
I have a bunch coming up. I have Sparks. I have Psychedelic Furs. I have the Hollies. I have XTC. It's XTC members. Not
Former
XTC,
TC?
EXTC. Yeah, it's a play on words.
Former TC.
over right by Princeton University. There's a couple of Americana acts that have a show coming up that I have tickets for.
Mm,
Um, we'll see what happens. I mean,
yeah.
March, I think we might be safe. It seems a lot of shows are going. It seems we're not encountering the deluge of Broadway cancellations that we were encountering, though there have been certain circumstances like Assassins prematurely ended their run
Mhm.
off Broadway
Yeah.
because they only had 4 shows left, and with 60% of the cast testing positive, it doesn't make sense to keep going. But
Yeah.
I want to, but I also want to be safe.
Yeah. No, that's
I
it. And I have to start traveling again soon, and I'm like
Yeah.
not excited about that whatsoever. And I got used to traveling before, so it should be okay. And I'm sure once I'm in it, but just
Yeah.
going out, even with my N95 or KN95 or whatever, I just don't. I don't relish the
I
thought.
have to say though, I think some of that's what's driving me crazy because, as you guys knew prior to the pandemic, every Monday was a check-in at a hotel. And
Yeah.
I got so used to that lifestyle. I got so used
yeah.
to getting up at 3:30 in the mornings on Mondays sometimes, for the flights
train
out,
and
or
for the flight.
whatever.
Mm.
Yeah, and when it was within New Jersey, that was kind of like a godsend because it was, just like a bad commute, like once a week. So,
Nice.
it's like I gotten so used to that lifestyle that, I didn't mind a little bit of a break, but it seems like it's been too long a break. And yeah, I just, we'll see what happens. As of right now, I believe I'm going to be work from home till the end of June. And
Oof.
our offices are back open, and and they were kind of flooded with parents, with just trying to get away from their kids. Which I completely understand. But I think I'm probably going to take that option, at least a couple days a week once you do feel a bit more safer.
Yeah.
So,
Well, my biggest push, I think, is to get back in the movies because I want to go to the movie theater.
Mhm.
I have tons of movies that I haven't been able to see yet before they are gone completely from the movie theater, and I have to just pick up
the thing is,
Blu-ray.
for me, it's a movie. It's a movie.
But
it'll live forever. I love having the shared experience. Blah 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 blah. I would love to have seen Spider-Man, but I'm not going to take the health chances.
It's not so
I
much the
saw it in
shared
the movie
experience
theater.
for me.
Yeah.
I could care less if I couldn't care less if there were other people in the movie theater for me.
That's it for me.
I want to be sitting in a movie theater in a nice big comfy recliner with some popcorn maybe, or a way too big soda that's twice the size of my bladder, just watching something on the big screen. I love that. Even if there's nobody else in the movie theater, like for me, then it feels just sort of like a private viewing. I've loved that for years.
I gotta say, Steve, I'm being a bit of a hypocrite because I'm saying that I love the shared experience, but usually when I go, it's like at 11:30 in the morning.
Yeah, and there's nobody there.
So,
or like on a Thursday.
I do not relish the thought of ever going back on a Friday night to a movie.
Absolutely
However,
not.
Seeing the Dune Part 1, as the kids call it, in the theater, as much as I still have problems with the movie, it was still a very cool experience to be like washed in the visual and the sound and the whole thing. But the people next to me not wearing their masks, not necessary whatsoever,
Yeah. And that's the thing. The last big movie I think we saw in the theater before Omicron became a concern, I think was Encanto. And loved Encanto, but lots of kids. Same thing with Ghostbusters Afterlife. Loved watching it. Lots of kids.
The sickest I ever got from attending the movie theater was Coco a few years ago because of those goddamn kids.
Those goddamn kids.
The virus factories. Like when I was with a teacher for many years, I got sick all the time because he got sick all the time because he taught kids. I mean, it's just, of course, right?
Yeah.
Jason got sick all the time when he was working with the children's theater. A lot.
Oh yeah.
It's just because everybody's sick. You're in contact with kids a lot. But yeah. Yeah, no fun.
Well, I hate to start moving forward without Caleb, but it
Oh,
seems like we really don't have a choice.
We could talk about like Peacemaker or something
Yeah,
to
well,
bridge
there's
the
some things
gap.
we can talk about. Maybe save some of the geek gets for later.
yeah, we can do
I have,
that.
I have a few stuff, but because I would like to see if Caleb got some stuff.
Yes.
Well, you mentioned Peacemaker. We're at a point right now where there's a hell of a lot of comic book related television.
Oh yeah.
For me, the two that are just the must see stop everything right now are Superman and Lois and Peacemaker. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Same
they're
time.
so different, right? They're not like at all the
Oh
same. So it's
no,
a nice pairing, right?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
But but
Oh
right
hey,
now with DC, we have like 5 hours of TV. You know. Good evening, handsome
hey,
bears. Hey, Brian's back. Yes. Hey, James. How you doing?
it's always good to see you, James.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
to
I mean,
see you and good to be seen.
oh yes, but yeah, so much TV. If you were to try to watch all the comic book TV, which is, I love this abundance, this
I do.
embarrassment of riches. But I
I'm
do
up
have
to
to be
date.
kind of particular with
Yeah.
time.
I'm up to date. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are rough, but I'm up to date. Yeah.
I'm so far behind on Batwoman and
Yeah.
Legends right now. It's not funny.
What
But
about Naomi?
oh, I'm caught up on Naomi. Well, I didn't watch last night's.
Okay.
So I guess there's only been 2 episodes, but 3 episodes, but
Yeah.
I'm 1 episode behind.
We've gone through this, but the moment they get rid of the best friend is a joyous day for me. I can't stand her. I can't stand. She ruins every scene she's in. I think the other kids that Naomi's friends with, I think they have a nice vibe. I don't mind that aspect of the show at all, but I just
Mhm.
can't stand the best friend. I can't stand her.
I'm not so against her. I think I think it's kind of like early in the season and probably like early in the show vibe that maybe
Yeah.
she
That
hasn't gotten into the character yet.
or that there can be
Um,
a course correction and
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's just not working. That chick's just too annoying.
So we've got Caleb back on. Yay!
Hey,
We're gonna try this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
you're a bit muted, but that's okay. I'd rather have you
Yeah.
here in some form than not.
I've got you. I'm having to use my cell phone. As soon as we logged on, my internet just decided to die and my computer will not reconnect.
Oh
So
no.
Oh,
the gods hate me tonight. I don't know what to do.
it's so funny. You're almost standing there like if I move like a centimeter, it's gonna be a problem.
These things are not working for me for some reason or another. So, but
Okay.
I'm happy to be here. Hi, fellas. I'm Caleb.
We're happy you're here too.
Yeah.
We're really happy you're here.
So anyway, Caleb, we were talking about some of the comic book TV that's on, and I know you're not the biggest TV watcher, so we figured that was the best segment to start with.
Well, that is true, but I am all but up to date on Peacemaker. So I've seen
Awesome.
all but the last episode of that.
Mhm.
We are almost all the way caught up. Have not seen last night's episode of The Mandalorian, or not The Mandalorian, of Boba Fett yet.
Oh, that.
Yeah. So out of those two, that's the ones that I've not seen, but trying to make do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I like that. Was that a Freudian slip or not? I don't know about that about Book of Boba Fett / Mandalorian, but yeah. I mean, Boba Fett. I've been watching it religiously as well. It is nice to still be in that world. I'm gonna watch anything Star Wars that comes out. So, the fact that we get more, though. What, Brian? You're muted.
Yeah, wow, I did that. That's like a noob mistake there. Sorry. It's like I've never podcasted or video or whatever before. But no, I don't get the pushback that people are having. I understand that it's not the show they wanted Boba Fett to be. They had all these expectations, but it's not bad at all.
Yeah.
And it does give a compelling hero's journey to a character that before was like nothing, like an action figure, literally devoid of anything before the prequel, and then just a little bit. So I'm enjoying it, but the latest episode is not Boba Fett show. It's the Mandalorian special edition inserted like one-off story, but that'll lead into other things. So anyway, I loved it. So hopefully, Caleb, when you get to it, I think you'll love it as much as we did.
Yeah.
And the Peacemaker, of course.
It's
I was going to say
joyous.
I'm enjoying the show well enough. It's it's not the Mandalorian, but it's interesting. It's fun. I wasn't crazy about the space Vespas, but that's just me. So I like space Harleys. But it was fine. Roger's really enjoying it. We're having a really good time watching it. As far as not understanding the pushback, all I can say is, have you met Star Wars fans?
No, right. Other than the usual noise that is fandom, right? Yeah. But.
Yeah.
In defense of the mods of Moss Vespa, as I call them, it's Espa, I know, but Vespa. People watch Quadrophenia. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Fuck the whole Power Rangers bullshit. Watch Quadrophenia. Okay, they're literally mods. Okay, watch it, and maybe you'll enjoy it a little bit more. That was a nod I never expected to see in the Star Wars franchise ever. So, I'm Team Vespa. It's never going to be Espa to me. Now, when they go to Mott's Lambretta, it's on. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's because you weren't born in 1949.
No, but I mean, I will admit, like, the shows these days are probably written for a younger audience, that they're not going to get these references, but that's okay, because there are still so many great ways to learn those references.
Yeah.
And so I hope that happens. But
at the same token, Brian, I think about that, and then I also think about the average age of the Friends viewer is 18 years old right now. That we have these things where there are certain elements from the past that are connecting with people on a big level, and maybe
I don't
stuff you don't
understand that.
expect.
The Friends thing is bizarre.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. But apparently, when they did tracking for this last post reunion, that the average view, and maybe because that's the only people that haven't seen it yet, it skews very, very young. So and I will say the absolute, I want to say the best experience, but one of the coolest things I ever saw at a concert was going to see the Left Bank. This is a band that had not played live together since 1968, almost before I was born. And there are 15-year-old kids that snuck into the show without an ID because they wanted to see it so bad. Because they came across this music on the internet. So
that's amazing.
Some young people got it going. So
sure. Oh, sure.
So yeah, or as James says, or maybe people are lying about their age,
or their vaccine status.
Yeah. So before we go into, there's a comment here from Adam Anderson to Caleb, and before we mention that, though, wanted to just say real quick, coming back from this past month, there have been so many I guess more information about shows that are coming up. We've got the Full Moon Night trailer that dropped a couple. I think it was last week. Was it? I forget which game it was. It was during, but one of the foosball games. It actually premiered. Coming up in March. Obviously we've got the Marvel movies that are coming up. Yet again, we're going to be waiting for Morbius now in April, as opposed to this month. Whatever. It keeps getting pushed, but then it's just something else to look forward to. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot that's coming.
I'm hoping I will feel cinema safe enough by the time the Batman comes out.
Oh, when is that?
Also in March.
Summer? March?
That's in March.
Like March 3rd or 4th or something. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, already. Which to me, I was like, I kept thinking, oh, isn't that premiering in 2022? Oh, yes, we're in 2022. It's coming in 2 months or a month and a half, really.
Yeah.
So with all of that coming up, that's really great. But there's some other stuff that's happening that is touching on, our interests with comic books, and Adam's comment here in reference to what Caleb has behind him. Caleb, did you see Mouse being banned by a school board in Tennessee? Why, yes.
Yeah, I did actually, and that's one of the reasons I grabbed my copy off the shelf and threw it up behind me. And Adam may not know this. I'm in law school, so I'm about 5 months away from being a full blown lawyer. I'm walking under Bill's umbrella. But so that's it was interesting today to walk into law school and have the entire school a buzz about First Amendment law in regards to a comic, and I was just like, oh guys, like step up, let's have this conversation, because I fit in both of those worlds, and I'm obviously a huge fan of Mouse, but if you're friends with me on my own personal social media page, I've been raging nonstop, as I think a lot of other folks have as well, about it and the importance of it and the importance of really pushing back against the neo-fascism that's rising up in our country, things that do things like censorship, and try to squash art, specifically art that pertains to minority classes of people, or the Holocaust. There are individuals in this country who are trying to set up a theocratic ethno state, and that's why they don't like stuff like this, because it makes them look bad. Fuck them in general. But so that's one of the reasons I threw that up behind me. I can get kind of feisty about these things.
Well, yeah, and one of the other books that Caleb, you talked about last year, is Gender Queer, which is another one of those books that's been banned or threatened in school library collections, but also in public library collections in several parts of the country. I know Florida, Virginia, a couple other states, where concerned parents found this book in their school libraries, have also either sent threatening letters, petitioned, angrily protested the fact that this book exists.
Well, have you heard about Florida's latest bullshit? And I speak as the former Floridian or whatever Floridian. Yeah. There is a literal "don't say gay" bill going through the state legislature that would actually limit discussion about sexual orientation and gender identity completely. So, I mean, this is, I'll be honest, like this is, I mean, it's not a certainty this will pass. However, I do think with the recent nonsense with DeSantis and the other stuff that it's got a good chance, but like it's totally censorship. And it's like, didn't we go through this era back in like there was like the 80s, like the moral panic? We've done this dance before. Why are we back here? Like what have we done? And the fact that Mouse is being banned and the genderqueer, it's such deja vu, and so frustratingly so that I get sad. I get sad, but I'm so thrilled that we have people like Caleb who are so passionate and going into law and I don't know, politics maybe eventually, but at least law to try to fight these fights. And
what's funny about Florida is that Arizona is also kind of going into that same backslide, where they had a no promo homo law for school instruction and sexuality discussions and things, that they're actually trying to, now that it's been essentially not fully repealed, but like pulled back, now they're trying to double down and bring it back where you can't even discuss anything, where homosexuality is considered deviant sexual practices, and therefore is obscene and can't be discussed. But they're couching it, and it's just the way that they're listing homosexuality as a concept that is trying to say, oh no, we're good with all sexual orientations, but homosexuality as a concept is describing a sexual practice, and therefore it is not allowable when it comes to teaching. So it's a no. We don't hate. We just
it's love the sinner, not the sin. It's the same bullshit they fed me in the church. It's like, oh no, we don't hate gay people. We just don't approve of what they're doing in their bedrooms. It's like, fuck you. You think that reduced me down to a sexual act? Like, you really think it's that simple and that like why are you worried about what I'm doing at random points in my life and not the rest? Like, it's just anyway. We're back here, and it's the 80s, and Anita Bryant is going to get a pie thrown at her face, or whoever the current Anita Bryant would be. But if you're in Tennessee, let your legislators know. I mean, it's a noble cause. I mean, it may not make a difference. I don't know. But like, let your politicians know that this is not acceptable, that this is just bullshit. It's not what you want as a citizen there.
I just wanted to throw out before we move off this topic that in general, all these bills do, and it's the sad sadistic part of it, is they're not going to meet the goals, the social reorientation that they're looking for. All they are going to serve to do is kill kids. That's it. 100%. And that's who I feel the worst for in all of these situations, be it Arizona or Florida or Tennessee or Arkansas or any of these places, is it just leads to the death of children who are queer kids who know who they are, they know their orientation, they know their gender, they know what they're supposed to be, and they are being told that everything about them is an abomination, is discussing all those things that were told to us that we survived. It is going to kill kids. Full stop. That's it.
Yeah.
So that's what really breaks my heart.
And that creating that environment, I think the worst, I think that probably the biggest depression there isn't so much from the parents, because the parents are, we did our job here at the top by removing any kind of literature that somebody could turn to or read or find, any kind of, friendly words or hope or whatnot. And then we let our kids do the rest of the work by bullying, by, continuing to push that type of narrative that any kid who has, a non-conforming gender or a non-heteronormative sexuality is therefore evil or bad or deserves constant harassment, punishment, and torture. Kids can be the cruelest oppressors because that's their peers, and that's 90% of their day is spent with people their own age, and that's that's really unfortunate. And then they have nowhere to turn to, and of course there's no other good influences to counteract that with the other the other kids. So, but James does have a good point here. Kids today have internet access. You can't keep them away from information, especially when you tell them that it's forbidden. Dinosaurs may be screaming and thrashing in the tar pits and may cause damage, but they are going to become extinct, and that's true. I
hope you're right.
We just gotta make it easier for those who have to suffer through it. So, but yeah,
I haven't contributed much because y'all doing such a good job. But I think it's also worth mentioning that there's not even one concern about optics. Today was Holocaust Remembrance Day.
Right.
And for this to hit, I mean, you see the last name there. Most people think I'm Jewish or Polish. I'm neither. I'm not Jewish, but I'm Jewish. And I mean, seriously, I probably went to more bas and bat mitzvahs growing up than final confirmations. And that there isn't. That there's no concern for. I mean, I had this thing I was writing when the mouse thing hit, and then my good friend Rob Steger, who has been on the show, and you guys all know, he just cut to the point today by saying, banning mouse is such a transparent act on the side of evil. It's like they're all wearing T-shirts saying "I'm with Hitler." Yeah, it's just one of the rallying cries we came away with over the last administration was the cruelty is the point, and it's just it's not stopping, and I don't know what does.
Well,
What does
the
the trick?
hypocrisy's on full display, right? These are the
Yeah.
same people that say you can't take down statues of Confederate slave owners, traitors to the nation, enemy combatants that are set up in the 1960s because it's erasing history, but they want to ban this because it shows an artistic depiction of emaciated naked mice being walked into gas chambers that are based on real photos of emaciated,
Yeah.
naked Jewish men and women who were being slaughtered.
Isn't one of the other justifications is that the word damn makes
Yes.
an appearance?
Not that that's not in the Bible 8 times, but
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh.
now I'm angry.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully to lighten the mood
Yes.
here, our good friend David Toby here, to be a goy with a Jewish-sounding name in Jersey. Yeah.
Oh,
There's
that's
a lot
so
of
true.
us. Just to get some background on this, what we think happened is we believe the last name was Xanakiz, CYZ, and at Ellis Island it got altered because there were so many similar sounding names. That's what we believe.
Fucking Ellis Island messing up
Yeah.
families for
Yeah.
hundreds of years.
At least on the East
However long.
Coast, the West Coast
Because
was even more crazy when it came to
because
Asian immigration.
in Lithuania there are like a number of families named Xanakiz. Um,
Hmm.
Okay.
so we think that is, and there is also a Zanowitz Street in San Francisco. From what I understand, it's like effectively an alley. But
It's a back
I don't know
alley
what
off
the
of
connection
Castro.
Yeah, so it's a behind a gay bar, isn't it? I bet. A little back alley action.
Hey. Oh, so it doesn't seem like there's any other notable news beyond that in terms of comic books. The only thing that I think was worth mentioning, and it's almost worth mentioning more from a comparison, is that Daniel Cherry III is leaving DC as the general manager, and I think
Hmm.
most people walk away saying who. Um, you know, with Dan DiDio, I will always maintain he was the best ambassador for comics since Stan Lee. We need those people that'll look at me every once in a while. And I mean,
Yeah.
I can't think of one single video interview with him or with Marie Javin since she took the reins over at DC. But apparently, a lot of people, again, it's bleeding cool, so it's a little skewed. But apparently, there were a number of people who were giddy with with this news. Apparently, he was a bit of a do nothing, but also would take credit where no credit should have been assigned to him. And he's leaving to work with Kanye West, and I think that says a lot about your character. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it's so funny. Like at another time, this would be like, oh my, when Dan DiDio was removed. I mean, that was all anybody talked about for 2-3 days.
Mhm.
And here's somebody that's in the reporting structure, not exactly the same, but still a very high position at the number 2 publisher, and crickets. And I think that's a testimony to personalities and our effectively our need for them occasionally. So.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
especially in this industry, where
Mhm.
personality can help draw attention to just to the industry. Period.
Yeah.
That hey, comic books are here and there.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
just what's on the big screen or the small screen. There's pages. There
Yeah.
are millions of pages being printed out there every month that we need to read.
Mhm.
If we
Well,
can.
before we talk about some of those pages, we haven't been together in a little while, and one of our we're very sad. We all know that. Um, One of the segments that it's kind of grown a little bit was when our geek gets when we would show what we got that might have an ambit to the comic book world. So you'd think there would be like a huge stockpile, but it's January, so I guess that's the way it works. That you don't get much, but I did get a couple of things, and we'll go around. Um, I did get like a whole slew of gift cards from the directors and partners in my company. Um, Through Amazon. So, when I get those, I get stuff I normally wouldn't get for myself, but I got a
Hmm.
bunch of them. So I got from the Hanna-Barbera classic collections from the Warner Archive, some of the 60s and then the revival in the 80s of some of their action characters, Shazam and Moby Dick and the Mighty Mightor, and then Space Stars, which revived Space Ghost and the Herculoids. So I got those. That sent me on a big Hanna-Barbera kick that I'm still not off. So like in the downtime, I've been watching like Johnny Quest documentaries and Yogi Bear cartoons and all kinds of stuff. With these particular properties, when these came out in the 60s, there wasn't a huge marketing push for them. The apparatus just wasn't there. But there were some items that came out, and I did get the Shazam Big Little book. Um, Starting in the 30s, there used to be these things called Big Little books, where there would be a page of art on one side and a page of prose on the other. And as I said, Big Little. It's a fat book, but it's very tiny. And Whitman was the main publisher, but there were a couple of others, and this happened from the 30s into the 80s, really. So I got Shazam, the Glass Princess, as a Big Little book. That was neat to find. One thing I'm absolutely loving about Disney embracing elements of the Star Wars Holiday Special a little more is that there's actually some merch that's been out. So they did put a big little golden book of the story of the faithful Wookiee, which is the cartoon that introduced Boba Fett, and they basically, beautifully, uh, beautifully adapted that horrendous artwork that Nelvana did for the cartoon. So there's a charm to that. So I'm happy to get that. Caleb and I are part of another comic book community, and one of the gentlemen that was in there, Dan Bryan, came into possession of a rather large collection, and just started sending books out to other people who were in the group. So I got a box from him. I got about 80 single issues, a stack of Star Logs. But the thing that was really cool, I mean, he hit this out of the park. This was a book I was dragging my feet on, that Caleb had talked a few months about, Dragman. So now I have a copy of that. And I mean, I'm so happy. Like, of all the books he threw into my box, that was the one. But that's not going to be the next up in terms of the reading. Next up is courtesy Caleb, and that's Reckless. Chrissy Hind of the Pretenders, her autobiography. I say that you should say that with an asterisk because it really only concerns her time up until the breakup of the original lineup of the Pretenders. But there's a lot of juice in there, man. I did some thumbing through, and this looks like it's going to be a great read. Um, I think as we were talking before the show, really haven't been getting out as much because of the concerns with Omicron. I did make one errand trip and thought some of the Batman toys would be out from Spin Master, and there were, but they were like the ugly, the big ones, so I didn't get anything. Waiting for the smaller figures, but they do have a Kenner Retro series from Hasbro of the Marvel figures. They're like kind of like if the Secret Wars kept going, and sometimes you got to get certain figures. And Carol Danvers as the Bikini Miss Marvel, I had to get that. There was no way I couldn't get that. But also some of the acquisitions didn't involve putting your health, risking your hands by going out. And this is something that Steve finally can join in when we have something to show, because through the Marvel Insiders, we both had enough points for The Mandalorian with Grogu Funko Pop, which was their offer last week with the Insider 400. So those reward systems, people join them. It's worth it. It's so worth it when you get like these free swag like this. So,
and my problem is I keep forgetting to scan those all my tickets and
Steve,
everything.
Just so we have a picture, let's just show it again so I can. Okay, good. Thank you.
So I have one thing I'm very proud of, and I'm very thankful that Caleb sent me. And I was trying to think of a good way to do this, but this is a great opportunity. It's not comics, but it's pretty geeky, and that's desktop curling. Caleb got me this lovely little product, which looks a little something like this. And
oh my God.
As the rocks fall out. Yeah. So this came out of that little box. It's amazing what you can fit in tiny little boxes, right? But it's effectively little curling stones, and you can kind of like slide them across. And there's a house, which is the target of the curling. You'll all get this very quickly when you watch curling here on the Olympics. Next week, 2 weeks from now, whenever
I think 2 weeks
in early February. So, and it's got little brooms too, which are adorable. Most of these sets don't come with little brooms, so that's really cool. and a little book about curling, which is adorable, and some countries that are pretty good on curling. Unfortunately, and I don't know if it's just because this was made a while ago, they may not be an American flag, which I'm like, really? Because America is the gold medal. Oh no, wait, there we go. They're on the second sheet. So yeah, this is a lovely gift. Thank you, Caleb, so much. I'm going to get a lot of use out of this in the next few weeks, I'm sure, as I talk nonstop about curling with everyone who will listen.
Can't wait. Can't wait. That'll be fun. Oh, well, I guess I do have some extra gets. So obviously, the Mandalorian with Grogu was a lot of fun. But also talking about things that Caleb has sent. I basically squealed and giggled as soon as I picked this out of the envelope from Caleb here. 25 Mystery Science Theater 3000 films that changed my life in no way whatsoever by Frank Conniff. I love this image here of Frank Conniff on the cover because that is exactly how I met him. That's what he looked like when I met him. He was so high on cold medication. It was great. But this is wonderful because I'm a huge MST3K dork, and what this is giving me is a lot of background on Frank, who is one of the main writers for the show, but then also played TV's Frank, as one of the Mads in Deep 13 on the show. Just kind of giving insight into how terrible some of these movies were and the process and what happened in acquiring the movies and in writing about the movies and, watching these movies over and over and over and over again to write, because usually they would see these things like 20 times in a row before they were done in the initial writing of it and then having to go through it so many times. So it's a lot of fun. This is great. I flipped through a couple of these already and it's wonderful. It's brilliant. Thank you very much. And then also Chris Fildes, who was on the show last year, about 4 or 5 months ago now. His Kickstarter for the second book of his Fanny Galactic series, Crime and Disorder, was released, and I got my copy. It is absolutely awesome, and it's everything that I always wanted from the world of Fanny Galactic. It's a lot of fun. And so I am really, 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 really looking forward to when he has a chance for his next one. So I'm really excited for that. But yeah, that's what I got.
I love that we get Bill's facial expressions on these things.
That just made me think of a Kickstarter that I know friends of mine have received and I still haven't. So now I got to email somebody.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll do that after the show. Yeah, it's not good.
Well, I'm glad all of those things got to you guys. Sorry it didn't get to you by Christmas, but I'm balling on a law school budget, and Christmas is on the 25th, and my husband's birthday is on the 27th. So that happened. But Santa was just running a little bit late, but I'm glad you all liked them.
Yes. No, it's lovely. Thank you so much. I'm glad Manos made the cut too, Adam.
Yeah.
Obviously, for those of us Mystery Science Theater nerds, pretty important.
So I got a few things I was going to show off, and some of them are related to comics, tangentially, and then some of them are just cool. So the first thing, I don't know if you guys know this or not. I'm not sure if we've had that conversation. I am and have been for a long time a huge fan of gargoyles. And I got this awesome giant statue of Galactus, or action figure statue. I'm not really sure what you want to call it. It's big enough to be a statue. So all kinds of goodies with that. This thing is cool. It's going on a shelf soon. But as big as that is, to make it look a little bit smaller, have you guys seen those gallery diorama PVC statues that they put out? They're really cool. They look amazing. They look like resin, but they are PVC, so they don't cost $300. They cost like $50. And I got the Vision So also going to be going up on a shelf, hopefully with my Hulks that I've got right up here. And also while we're here, shout out to my friend Hassan, who sent me this for
Oh,
Christmas.
cool.
So it's good to have good friends. He's one of the best. Couldn't thank him enough. And so as much as I love all of my statues, I love something else maybe a little bit more. Um, like Bill, this guy, I love music, and fortunately, I've got friends like Bill who know that I have a love of music. And I didn't show these off before Christmas specifically because I wanted to get your guys' gifts to you before I said, "Hey, look what I got." I wanted there to be some reciprocity there. Not that I think there needed to be, but I just wanted it to. But Bill sent me two albums that he said every fan of heavy music should have. Because one, they lead up to it. Two, they are part and parcel of what made it. So the first and foremost, uh, the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Uh, yes, I, I love Jimi Hendrix. I get a lot of grief because when people are like, what are your top 10 favorite guitarists? He's not in my top 10, but I do not discount his influence and his prominence and importance to rock and roll music and to the guitar virtuosity in general. He's amazing. So thank you. I have about worn this record out already. And then last but certainly not least, something that I probably have listened to more than Hendrix. Um, I absolutely adore this album. Never mind the Bullocks, the Sex Pistols. Um, seminal album. Always has been. There is not a song on this album that is not incredibly well structured, good, raw, bleeds energy, and so that's my geek gets for the week. Thank you so much. I have already gotten hours and hours and hours of enjoyment out of putting that, like just stuffing that in my ears.
um, since your husband hasn't been there, has it gotten a little more time than it usually would?
Oh, 100%. Because like you said
Okay.
earlier, I don't I don't watch TV very often. Very,
Yeah.
very seldom do I watch television. Most of the time, even when I'm just relaxing, I've got music on because I'm reading. We got comics. We got work to do.
Yeah.
So Raj, like you said, my husband has not been home a lot recently. He works nights and weekends at the hospital, but he also has a really cute, really adorable 87-year-old grandmother that he has been going and seeing during the week because he's a nurse who can help with things and is trying to take care of her some too. So I married a really good dude.
Cool.
Oh,
You had mentioned gargoyles, and I'm gonna try to find it for you. When they used to have uh, live live airings of the DC animated universe, I was
Yeah,
I was on the press list for that. So went to many of those, and very often before she retired, Andrea Romano was part of it, and they went on a very interesting tangent one time about that they felt the show that came closest to achieving what Batman the Animated Series did in terms of having a rabid fan base and of just the pure quality of the voice acting was Gargoyles.
yeah,
And I'll try to find that for you because it's a really interesting discussion about their appreciation for a show that they weren't even involved in. Just that they naturally had friends who were involved, working in the same industry. But it was really fat. It was like before they knew it, they talked about gargoyles for 15 minutes on a Batman panel. And
I love
I'll try
that.
to find that for you because I think you'd really enjoy that. All
I
right. Well,
100%.
we're almost at an hour and we haven't opened the comic books yet. So I think we probably should start doing it. And I think my edict about us only having one because we haven't been together in a few weeks, I think I was right. I
yeah.
do.
I mean, you know what happens when we get together? We haven't talked for a while. We just non sequiturs and everything that we want to
I
talk
didn't know
about. And
where it was going to go. I mean,
yeah,
both Caleb and our teams are out at much earlier points than I think anybody anticipated, taken out by the same damn team with a quarterback that just is not in the caliber of anybody else who's still in the. So and there's all this stuff of I'm dealing with my quarterback is kind of irredeemable at this point, and it's a lot. Football's been a lot. But oh my God, that game! Oh my God, that I wish you guys were into football, Steve and Brian, because Sunday night was one of the best football games of all time.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, it's why people watch it. It was stunning.
I have
Hey,
been getting into soccer, if that helps, football for the rest of the world through Ted Lasso. So, I mean, that's all I can offer at this point.
Well, with soccer, I think soccer is more like a play and football is like a movie. And, I mean, I played soccer for years. I someday I'll dig up the pictures of me as a soccer ref in the shorts and the whistle, and
Oh,
at least one of you will enjoy it on a different level. So I totally understand getting into it from that angle. But yeah, it's weird. I thought still be more invested in the postseason.
I was in marching band for so long, and I really tried to give football a fair shake. Honestly, it didn't happen over 6 years of that. So I tried. I did try.
Yeah.
You do have some agreement here, Bill.
Hey,
Tony Gilkinson. This weekend was an amazing weekend for football, and that game on Sunday night was amazing.
Yeah, there's not really any reason to watch the Super Bowl at that point. That was
we already had it. Yeah, we already had it.
It's not gonna. The only way, I will say this, the only way that anything will come close to that, and people can disagree, whatever, is for me, if the Super Bowl is a close game and the Bengals win it. If they have their Cinderella moment, because the Bengals haven't won a playoff game in 30 years. They finally, on the 31st year, they finally win a playoff game. If they can go all the way and take home the rings, we'll get our Cinderella moment. That will make it worthwhile. Other than that, Sunday night, that wins. That was insane.
Yeah. Steve with his face like, can we talk about comics? OnlyFans? Yeah,
James,
no, that's never happening.
So OnlyFans, Bill? Yeah.
I don't. I don't really give a shit about being a licensed attorney, but I don't want to get disbarred.
It's just for your modeling, Bill. It's just for your modeling.
It helps your brand. All right. All right, Steve, let's get into the comic books. Tell us about something you're reading that you're enjoying.
So while I was on vacation, I, of course, everywhere I go, I definitely have to hit up a comic book store somewhere. I'll sniff them out. I'll find it, even if it's on an island in the middle of the Pacific. I will find that comic book store that's somewhere there. So I did, and I picked up this very interesting issue number 1 of Monkey Meat by Juni Ba. Now, Juni Ba, I didn't know too much about him. I've seen some of his work, on covers like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and a few other properties. It's very, very interesting style. There's a lot of humor, a little bit of manga flavor to it, and just really interesting design. A little bit kind of reminds me of sort of like the Magnola-verse, aesthetic. In some of the ways that he designed certain things, but it's very unique. It's very interesting, and I knew nothing about this book before I picked it up and started reading it. And I have to say, I still don't really know what this book is about. It is ostensibly it's sort of a story about a company that produces and markets a product called Monkey Meat, which is exactly what it is, what it says on the tin. It is monkey meat for consumption. But it's in a very bizarre kind of way. This company has taken over this island where the monkey meat can be farmed. They use this very strange substance that they use to mutate the natives of this island and create workforce out of them or other bizarre kind of creatures. They're looking for a way to make this substance that they've been using to produce monkey meat, to produce the workers to make the monkey meat. They're trying to find a way to market it so that they can sell that as well. And one of the characters that's featured in here, Lug, is sort of a hunter for them. He hunts monkeys or some kind of creatures that are like monkeys to be eaten. But he's also originally a native, but he's been mutated so much that he has no connection to his to his original people or to his island so much anymore. And so he decides that he needs to take revenge. He needs to do something to fight back against this company that's taken so much from him and changed him so much. And so he leads a one-man assault on the monkey meat production facility, and unfortunately is killed by the response. Thinking he's free, unfortunately, that's not where the story ends. After being murdered, and we find out what is in the special secret sauce that they've been using to produce monkey meat and mutate people. So again, very bizarre, very cool, very funny, lots of parody here. And just some interesting things with advertisements. In fact, right when you open up the front page, you have an advert for monkey meat, and just the yes, monkey meat in cans. Don't make that face. You haven't tried it yet. Like, it's very, very fun and bizarre, and it really speaks to Junie Ba's sort of very eclectic influences growing up in Senegal. French comics and American comics and manga and Cartoon Network and everything sort of smushed together to sort of create this interesting style. Just some of the things, like even on the back, the Safari, don't feed the wildlife. It's just just really fun. It brings a smile to my face to pick it up and read it. This was the number 1 issue. Hopefully we'll see number 2 within the next couple of weeks. Should be out in February. It's fun to pick up. It's very strange, so you might have to read it a couple times, but it's a lot of fun, and really excited to keep reading this one.
Okay, Steve. All right, let's go over to Brian. Brian, I'm kind of bracing for impact with this. I've only read up to issue 2, but I know some of the spoilers, the shit that's gone down with this series. So let's hear about the book that you have chosen to discuss.
All right, so I was challenged, or actually, I had a request from Caleb. This is a while ago. This is probably a few weeks back, and it was because we weren't recording. Like, what do you think about Inferno number 4? How did this seminal X-Men miniseries that Jonathan Hickman wrote, a swan song for him on the X books? What did you think? Because, it's a pretty big moment, given that he has created the era of Krakoa, the Age of X, or whatever the various things they're calling it. And I was challenged because I didn't honestly have a great answer at first. I had to go back, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, I was disappointed. And I really want to put it out there that longtime listeners, Hickman is sort of my preference. I love his writing. He's very meticulous and well thought out. And I really wanted to love this. But oh no, I heard something. Oh, Caleb is giving us gymnastic camera views. But no, let me just say, Hickman's amazing, and I love him, and I wanted to love this final piece, this final statement that he was giving on the X-Men series before he handed it off to all the writers in the X books that he has been nurturing and shepherding over the course of the last 4 years. And I didn't 3 years. I didn't love it. I just didn't love it. And I really have wrestled with why. So I hope that this is an opportunity for Caleb and I to work this out, because I know he liked it more than I did. and I want to like it more than I did. So, like, if you're not keeping up with Inferno, Bill, I know you're number 2. You've got a long way to go. You've got a journey ahead of you. There were some amazing moments, like issue number, is it 4? I think that had the Magneto, Charles Xavier versus, Nimrod and Karma, the Omega Sentinel. Like that battle is epic. Like no question. The Mystique.
I gotta sneak in there. Karma is an Omega level X mutant.
Did I get that right?
Karma?
Not the new mutant Karma.
Okay,
sorry.
Not the new
See, I get
Karma.
confused.
Okay.
There's so many
Karima.
fucking
I think
mutants.
Karima.
Oh, Karima.
Okay,
oh my god.
Karima. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's embarrassing.
that just blew my mind. Like, wow. Okay.
Hey,
no. Thank you.
If Gold Balls can be, anybody can be.
Yeah.
I'm just
poor
saying.
Gold Balls. Poor Gold Balls, though.
Karima as the Omega mutant, Omega X-Men, but I think, Omega Sentinel. Also, by the way, let me just preface this. This review is brought to you by this red wine that I've been drinking. So, like, if Ron was still watching, if any of our fans of our ridiculous drunk X-Men or other reviews are out there, you're getting one right now. I just want you to know. Karima, the Omega Sentinel, was probably one of my favorite moments because it's the inversion of the Days of Future Past, which if you're a deep cut X-Men person, I mean, even if you're a casual X-Men person who saw the cartoon, you know about Days of Future Past. Like they did that whole Terminator coming back from the future to fight the past. Like they did that with a robot machine, like proponent, like thing to like disrupt, to destroy the mutant utopia that is predicted and was basically happening with Krakoa in the future. So like, I love that. That's a Hickman chef's kiss. Love it. But that 4th issue, just, it wrapped everything up so quickly and so unsatisfactorily from me as a Hickman fan. I'm so thrilled that we're not moving on to a different era, but I want the Hickman ending. I am like to Hickman what these idiots were to what's the name, Zack Snyder. I want the Hickman cut. Like I want the lovely universe building playfulness. John, I would not say it's La Bamba. I need to know that reference, so we'll have to talk later. But it's not the same. It's just not the Hickman cut. Like I need the Hickman cut someday. And so my best prayer, if all that is just in the universe, is that we get the Hickman cut years from now, after the run of Krakoa has ended, after they have driven this concept into the ground, which is the X books way. I mean, they will drive a concept into the ground. I want Hickman to come back. I want him to tell the ending he wanted, even if it has to be finessed and molded to fit the current continuity. I want that. Then I will be happy. But as it stands right now, Inferno number 4 was not bad. It was pretty good, but it wasn't as good as it could be. And I want Caleb to prove me wrong.
Well, I don't know that. So number one, there's no proving wrong, right? So it's all subjective, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And I will say I agree with you on the fact that I would love to know where originally Hickman wanted to go, because I don't think this was it. I think there was some type of interrupting force there that stepped in and he had to cut it short. I mean, this is the guy that Marvel let literally destroy the 616 at the end of his Avengers run, right? So he's got clout. He can normally do what he wants to do with these things. So something had to have happened. What that is, I have no idea. Inferno was abbreviated. At the end of Inferno, without ruining anything, I will say that there wasn't a lot of plot development. They kind of it circled around. It kind of ended exactly where it started, to a point. There were some things, as without again ruining anything, there were some things with Moira that came to a head that I think were incredibly important and that do shadow and shade the rest of the rest of the story as a whole. I've been saying for months, since they kind of introduced the concept, that everything that had to do with Hickman's X-Men, all of it, it was going to end, or it was at least going to the last major speed bump in the road was going to be Mystique and Destiny. From the minute, that was the one thing that made sense from Hoxpox, when they actually laid out why Destiny and Moira had beef, why there was an issue with that. A mixture of genocide and also immolation. There was wrongs done on both sides of that little issue, but I'm glad to see it did come to a head in that. I did like the issue. I don't think above the board that Inferno as a whole, as a mini, I don't know if you want to call it a mini series, as a small event, it wasn't great. It's not the shining star of what he built, but that last issue to me was fun, specifically because of what you talked about, the energy that he put into it, the zooming in on those characters, the fights between the teamwork between Xavier and between Magneto, their last stand, reaching that culmination point. These two people who have since 1963, who have been at each other's throats for the most part, for them to go out together. And it's the X-Men, so I'm not spoiling anything. Nobody goes out in the X-Men, right? But for something to happen in that moment, for them to make their last stand together and just give zero shits about any of the history, to go out as almost brothers, to pile in and just finish that last fight and get to where do the thing that they think they needed to do no matter what. That was excellent. To see these other to see Cypher have this comeuppance moment where he just is like, oh no, y'all don't realize, like, I'm the dude. We haven't really seen. I'm not reading all of X-Men, so we haven't seen all of that. But for Cypher to come in and say, guys, like, y'all, like, you need to sit down, and here's why. I can end this, like, just done. So don't mess with me. Like all of these other Omega level people, everything else, I've got the power of language, also a psychotic robot on my arm, and a giant human person tree that also is connected to Mars. So I can just explode this whole thing if you don't shut the fuck up. Which I loved. That was a really great moment for him to just just assert himself. And we don't see that from him too often. And then finally, one of the great character moments, I think, came from Emma Frost. Emma Frost just reminding you that she is that bitch. Like, and I say that lovingly. That's not derision. She is that bitch. She is conniving. She has her own agenda always. She is in your head, whether you want her to be or not. She apparently, it's always been questioned about, but her mind, she can work Cerebro. She can do everything that Professor X thinks he can do. She has that. So for her to have that moment of just, oh, by the way, also I'm still not good. There are, like, here's my secrets that I've been keeping from everybody. I just thought it was great. Like, in those moments, again, did not culminate into what I wanted as far as like the fireworks, but satisfying in that last issue. And for Hickman's run to end on this platform of saying, hey, all of this wraps around, and the linchpin of this whole thing is a queer relationship that has been denied in the past and that matters. And that it is the strongest spoke in the wheel for this whole thing. And terraforming planets, conquering, cheating death, everything else, none of that matters. It can all be undone by denying this love. That was good. That was being the best.
I'm so glad you said that, because that is the sort of like the last piece that I wanted to throw in there, is the fact that they did give that full-throated acknowledgement of their love and their marriage. I mean, Hickman has always been someone who I felt like has a conservative like backstory, probably, given where he's from or whatever. But like hearing that through him as a queer person absolutely cemented any or shed any doubts I had. Yeah. Like, the man loves his queer characters and ally. He's a great ally. So I 100% give him that, and will never take that from him. And this does not diminish Hickman whatsoever for me.
No.
I wish the Moira story had more time, because to me, that's the biggest sacrifice. That's the biggest knife twist, is Moira as what we saw in House of X, Powers of 10, to what we have now with nothing in between, really.
Well,
It's not there for
You see,
me.
that's a question I have, because one thing that they had made a big deal was that there was going to be a Moira X miniseries that was supposed to be written by a big writer, and all indications were that it was Neil Gaiman. And I think maybe that they were putting that in reserve for that, and if for whatever reason that didn't come to fruition, that had to be put on the back burner and then accelerated in the method that it was. I do have something that I wouldn't mind you spoiling it for me, and I'm not even sure if this is something that was addressed. Has Moira gone through all her lives at the end of Inferno?
No.
No, she
No?
still has
Okay.
2 left, if I'm counting right.
Okay, because I don't think that would be like a major
left.
spoiler, but
we talked about this on Flame On. It's basically she has 10 lives for sure because she's on her 10th. 11 if she plays her cards right. Is the way it was phrased in House of X. So by the end of this, she is depowered, so to speak. She is no longer a mutant, and she is on the run from Mystique. And so what's interesting, and I don't know, Caleb, have you read the X Deaths of Wolverine yet?
I have not. No, I haven't yet.
Pick that up as soon as you can. And normally I'd be like Wolverine, because
it's a Moira book.
It is entirely an extension in a Moira book, at least for part of it. And so it's that. See, the first one, the X Lives of Wolverine, was like a Terminator. I got to go back in time to save Charles Xavier or whatever. Fine. Cool. Interesting. But X Deaths of Wolverine, way more interesting now if that's the thread they're following. And now I understand why they were saying this X Lives Deaths of Wolverine was going to be so important, because I think this is the Moira stuff that we were going to get, or at least the next chapter of that. And it is interesting because she's not the person, she's not now as a fugitive from Krakoa at all what we thought she would be at all, ever. Like, that's an interesting dynamic. So you got to check that out.
I have a question for people who are better versed at this, and I just can't remember, but I think this probably would have some resonance. In Hoxpox, when it was revealed to Moira that she had 10, maybe 11 lives, wasn't it Destiny who revealed that to her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Destiny basically sat her down in that whole point where she was just about to, crisp her, to roast her marshmallow. She basically says, like, this is how I see it for you. I can't see exactly what's going to happen, but I do see that you have this many go arounds that you'll make, and if you play your cards right, you'll get this many. If you really fuck up, you're going to get this many, and we're going to burn all of them out. And that's where kind of Moira changes her tact, because she realizes that she is not immortal, that she can't keep reincarnating and resetting the timeline. So that's, I think, that kind of starts her in the direction of what ended up with Hickman's X-Men, the Krakoa saga. So,
and in that timeline, I think you have to remember, though, in that particular timeline, Moira, if I'm not, I need to go double check. I could be wrong about this, which would be stupid since I'm the one pointing my finger around. But Moira in that particular timeline was a eugenicist, genocidal maniac who was actually trying to exterminate all the mutants, right?
She wasn't doing it for evil reasons necessarily. She was doing it because she thought it was the cure. She was she wanted to cure them.
Stuff. God.
Moira is so fascinating, and this is another thing that Hickman has given us as a gift. Moira pre-Hickman was like, all right, cool. She has an island. Her son was a mutant. It's a whole thing.
But but she was also like, gosh and bigora. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't much to her. Yeah.
Right.
She's only cool.
Now, she is oscillating in her lifetimes between a extremely big gift and power behind mutants to the absolute polar opposite, which is the antithesis. I want to get rid of mutants. I want mutants to go away and not be a thing. And that's cool. That dialectic between those two lifetimes is really interesting. And so I hope the X-Men writers don't just take the easy route, and I don't think they will. I think they're going to play with this idea for a while. Orkies or Orcus or however you say that is also an interesting foil because it's as you've seen in the X books, X-Men book rather,
Sword
as you've seen in other books. It's an interesting, not your standard villain. It's a MCU Marvel movie villain, a fully realized like they have a legitimate agenda that can be defended if you are pro-human, or pro-machine. So like there's a lot of cool stuff here. I am just so worried and sad that we don't see the architect himself, Hickman, their version of it. We're getting these other writers, and they could transcend what Hickman had planned, or they could completely fail and run this into the ground. And I think I've been burned too many times by X books running a concept into the ground. Utopia. What else? I won't say the Jason Aaron era. That was pretty good. But like whatever, Genosha, I don't know. There's lots of eras where it just went, so I've been burned before. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think X-Men's one of those weird properties where it's carved out its own comic universe in Marvel. So they've gotten used to, since Chris Claremont came in, they've gotten used to having a singular vision. And I don't know if it's just editorial has gotten used to that, or us as readers have gotten used to that, fans of X-Men. But it's almost like they keep looking for that singular vision. They need to have some kind of person controlling everything, or else it goes off into chaotic directions and just kind of, leaf on the wind. Nobody knows where it's going to go. And I kind of felt that was the big reason why they brought in Bendis, was because they felt directionless for a while, and so they're like, let's reboot everything and let's bring Bendis in, and Bendis is he's gonna right the ship, he's gonna do all this stuff, and everything's gonna tie into what he's doing with all new X-Men and all this, whatever.
Well, that's because I think that the office is too big. The line is too big. So in general, the mutants are supposed to be a minority in the Marvel universe. Yeah. So they're supposed to be a small bubble, and then they get spread so thin because literally 60% at one point in time of Marvel's line was mutant books. They can't be the minority.
Wolverine books.
They're everything.
Well, one person I think that doesn't get the credit for having the unified aspect that you were talking about, Steve, is Louise Simonson. Because of her being Claremont's editor, her being the one that say, look, we're doing New Mutants with or without you. Of
X Factor,
if you read those first 6-7 issues of X Factor before the Simonsons came on, they're fine, but they're kind of pointless. And that
they're retread.
Yeah, and
Cinti is an editor with that as well.
Yeah, so I think I think they were a very close office personally. If you ever see Chris Claremont's X-Men documentary, which is on Tubi and all those, it's clear that those three that we just mentioned have a tremendous amount of affection for each other, and they really have never gotten back to that.
No.
They really have never gone back, and I think because it is bloated.
I will say, I think Hickman's era.
There's so much.
Yeah. I think Hickman's writing room has gotten as close to it as we've seen, because Hickman brought Teenie Howard, Al Ewing, Ram V. I don't know if Duggan's come over, but he's brought a lot of those people over to his Substack stuff that he's doing. It's like there's an affection there, and I think that's why Hickman was so positive when he left. He's like, you know what? This is going to be better than I wrote and better than I intended, because there's so many fresh writers that have their own unique take on this. So, I mean, I'm just saying that was a golden era to be sure, but I think this might be the next best thing.
But I think you gave me a lot of food for thought, because I'm thinking of, the times that I have returned to X-Men, with Morrison, and there was Extreme X-Men, which may as well have been published by another publisher.
Yeah.
There was so little crossover. I absolutely loved when Brubaker was on it, and then Brubaker Fraction kind of tag teaming for that period. But the other books that were in the line had no connective tissue.
Yeah.
with what was going
Yeah.
on in that main book.
Kieran Gillen is taking over the Quiet Council. I am really interested to see how much that dovetails into everything.
How do you do?
High-fiving you.
I'm low-fiving you. We're doing the fives.
Okay. Looking at the clock, we have to talk about something that isn't the X-Men. So let's go over to Caleb. Caleb, tell us about something you're reading that you're digging.
I sure will. But before we do that, just because I got up for this, just because I got up, so I refused to let Brian drink alone. So I walked over to my bar that's in my office. I got my bottle of Booker's. This was setting the bottle in March of 2019. Really good whiskey. So here is to Hickman's X-Men.
Robitussin. Right.
I would drink with you, except that this is where I'm at. So yeah.
See, I was trying to get there, but we were just talking too much. Okay, so
Drunk Bill hasn't made an appearance on this show in like 5 years.
Yeah,
that's the most alcohol I've had in like 4 weeks. So
good. Yeah. No,
oh boy.
I haven't.
So you're going to be on the floor in 5 minutes, right?
Oh yeah, I've cut way down.
It's a shame.
All right, so I'm going to take us in a different direction. I don't read a lot of. Actually, Steve probably reads more of these than I do. I don't read a lot of YA, YA graphic novels, Scholastic, that kind of thing. Steve and Bill, when it comes to the DC YA graphic novels, these two guys right here, they're on it. It's great. But a few years ago, I got looped into a series it started off as a web series, and I fell in love with it because of just how amazingly wholesome it is. And I think it's especially important for these kind of books right now because of what we were talking about with Mouse and censorship of LGBTQ themes. Those books with genderqueer and stuff like that. So the book, without burying the lead, is called Heartstopper, and this is Volume 4. Volume 4 just came out. It is written by Alice Oseman. She is I think she's British. It came out in the UK before it came out in America. So it's a 2021 book, but I just got my hands on it the first week of 2022. So, and as soon as it got it in, ripped it open, devoured it. It's amazing. So this entire series, and I'm not sure if I've spoken about it before on here, and if I have, just bear with me. I'll go real quick through it. The series focuses on two teenage guys, Charlie and Nick. Both of them are in high school. They both live in London. At the beginning of the series, they're dealing with coming out, liking each other, not sure. One of them is an athlete, plays a lot of soccer, plays rugby. The other one's kind of a nerdy, meek and mild kid, artsy. They realize they like each other. There's a whole thing there. End up together. It's awesome. No sex, none. No physicality, just emotions. Right. That is all this book is about. These two getting to know each other. So in this fourth book, their relationship has blossomed. The third volume, they took a school trip to Paris with lots of supervision, and they got to go to Paris on the train and go on this trip together. And Charlie started noticing that Nick, and I may be getting names backwards, was not eating, and so that was a red flag for him. There was something going on there. So the fourth book kicks off. They get back from Paris. They're getting back into school. Their relationship is going great. They're getting to be boyfriends. The L word is about to get brought up, right? Like it's that moment. And Charlie is bereft because he really wants to say it. He really wants to tell Nick he loves him because he does. He's head over heels for this boy. He's doing the whole cutesy thing where he's like writing his name in a thing and dreaming about their lives together. They know each other's families. The parents are cool with it. They're allowing them to have the space they need to develop as people and develop in a relationship. So everything is on the up and up, and they just adore one another. And it's really, really sweet. And so they have their moment where, he not want to, the dynamics of that. And eventually he says it. And Nick is taking it's a really funny scene because Nick is actually stepping out of the shower. And when he says it and he can't respond. And so Charlie gets embarrassed because Nick doesn't say it right back. And so he runs out. Nick's got to chase after him. And Nick says it back. He does love him. And there's this really cute moment. They make out a little bit. It's really funny. But then the book takes a little bit of a turn from this, meet cute from this relationship. And they really start to deal with what they discovered in Paris, which is Charlie has having some anxiety. He's developed an eating disorder. He is not eating. He's essentially anorexic, and is just not. He won't take anything into his body. He doesn't like to eat in front of other people. He has body image issues. The dude's a twink, like skin, like just a stick figure, but refuses to take his shirt off at the beach, that kind of thing. And so Nick, it's breaking his heart to watch this because he wants to be there for Charlie. He wants to help him. He wants to get him help, but he's a teenage boy. He doesn't know how. He doesn't know about these things. So he goes to his mom and, what do I do? And the mom is like, well, look, sometimes the best thing that you can do is not fix the problem. Just let them know that you are there for them, that there is a problem, and encourage them to go get professional help. And so he starts taking these steps to say, hey, this is a thing. You have to eat. You're hurting yourself. You're self-harming in a couple of different ways. I can't make you stop. I don't have the skills and the qualifications to do this, but I'm here by your side. Let's get you help. Like let's work on this. And eventually it comes to the point where he's willing to accept help and does. And goes off, gets a little bit of help, comes back, and their relationship can pick up right where it left off. And it's really great. And so that's basically the plot of this book. It's fast. Art-wise, it's very simplistic art, very it lets you fill in a lot of gaps. It's all dual colored, so they don't use every page makes one or two colors. That's it. Lots of blues, some pinks. Actually, no, now I think about it, the pinks were in the last book. This is just all blues. Very, very cute, very what you can kind of expect from a YA book. But here's why I love this, and I alluded to it a little bit while ago. All of these books that are getting banned, genderqueer, everything else, one of the excuses is, oh, well, it's sex. Like Steve was talking about earlier, they're taking away the relationship and diminishing us to a physical act. There's zero sex in this entire series. So that's cool on two fronts. Number one, they can't use that as an excuse. Number two, I came out at 20 or 21. Bill, I know you came out later. I don't know about Steve and Brian. I wasn't allowed to learn how to date as a teenager when all the straight kids were really figuring out how to date. A lot of queer people, a lot of gay men, a lot of gay women, a lot of trans folk, we don't get the societal development that straight people just by default get to have. Without sex, they get to learn how to have conversations. They get to learn how to crush on people. They get to learn how to go on dates. They get to learn how to have this interpersonal dynamic. As teenagers in these very formative years, we're denied that. This book is about that. This entire series is about queer boys, queer teenagers, young adults learning the interpersonal dynamics of dating in a way that is natural, in a way that is just fluid, and it is wholesome. And they the coming out is not easy for them, but it's still it's not discouraged. It's not shameful. Those things that society tells us that we should duck our heads and be like hate ourselves for. These boys don't have to experience that. There's some homophobia thrown at them. Like it's not just all rainbows and flowers, but it's a beautiful story, and it's something that I think is very important in the normalization of us, in the normalization and the realization that especially queer youth know who they are. And if we take the speed bumps and we take the barriers away from them and we just affirm and acknowledge who they are, that it can solve a lot of problems on the back end. It is not wrong to say that homophobia and people having to go into the closet are why a lot of our community develop substance abuse problems. It's why they develop eating disorders, alcoholism, methamphetamine, the party drugs. That's an issue. Addiction is a problem in every community, but it's a problem in ours. And a lot of that stems from trauma that goes back to our childhoods and our early youth of being denied to be people. This explores all of that. And it's a YA book. I think over here it's done by Graphics, which is an imprint of Scholastic. The entire series, like I said, is just wholesome. You'll smile the whole time. It's really cute. It is actually going to be a Netflix series. I think it's going to be an animated series. I've seen interestingly enough, the guys that they cast do the voices look a lot like Nick and Charlie. So it threw me for a loop for a second. I was like, oh, this could be a live action. I would love a live action. I think it would be adorable. There's a little bit of Love Simon kind of vibes to it, if you've seen that, but it's not Love Simon. So check it out. You can get it off Amazon if your local comic shop can order it for you. Get it there. Encourage them to put it on the shelf. Get your local library to get this. Talk if you are a parent, if you're an ally, talk to your school's library. Tell them you want this, and if they throw any of the bullshit in your face about sex is a physical act, there's none in this book. It's literally just about kids getting to explore the dynamics that straight kids get to do every day. So thank you, Alice Oseman, for writing this. It's amazing. It's incredible. It's one of my favorite books of last year, and I read it this year. So loved it.
Okay. All right. I'm going to anchor us back into somewhat more conventional comic books. And this was just what I was always going to talk about. Brian, I forgot to clear something up for you. During the period where you were away from the show for an extended period of time, one of the books that came up was the Batman Fortnite crossover. And if you saw the first issue when I reviewed that, it was not positive. And that's where I came up with La Bamba, and La Bamba translates to the bomb, and it made a lot of sense. So just wanted to throw that in there. Um, I have a Batman related book that I want to highlight as my big pick, and this is Nightwing number 87 from December. And Tom Taylor's, he's so on fire right now between Superman, Son of Kal-El, and Dark Knights of Steel, and just everything he's touching is becoming a big seller. He is now a DC exclusive, I believe, for at least 18 months. So very often, a lot of his books are at the top of the stack right now. The Toms, King, and Taylor, they seem to be, the marquee writers right now for DC. Um, what happens in Nightwing, it's a very sparse story. It's very, very simple what happens. If you've been following Nightwing, Dick Grayson himself now is a billionaire. He inherited the estate of Alfred Pennyworth, who was actually a billionaire because he made so much money off of another billionaire that that's how that happened. So it's a very strange situation right now because Dick Grayson is actually worth more than Bruce Wayne because of the post A-Day goings on. This is a post Fear State issue. Fear State mercifully is over. And what we have is there is, because of Dick Grayson being very public about his new wealth, because of initiatives that he set up in Gotham and in Bloodhaven and in some other areas of bettering the community, that's made him a target. So there is a hit out on Dick Grayson, not on Nightwing, but on Dick Grayson. They can't get to Dick Grayson, but who do they get to? His dog. Yes, Dick Grayson has a dog. It's a one-legged pit bull that he named Haley, which unfortunately, or fortunately for the pun value, Barbara ended up nicknaming Bitewing. And so, since they can't get him, they get the dog, the criminals. That's the whole storyline. That's what's behind this. So, it starts off with Dick, and this is entirely vertical storylines. The issue is almost completely double page spreads, and it goes off on things like the film Rope, or the beginning sequence of Absolute Beginners, or if you can harken back to the 80s, Janet Jackson's When I Think of You video of one continuous shot. There's other examples, but those are just the ones that go to mind. So that's the spirit, and we have Grayson coming home, finding out that they got the dog here, arf arf, and he's chasing the bad guys, and he's chasing them all through Gotham, and these are just absolutely beautiful, beautiful two-page spreads by Bruno Redondo. Did I get the right name? Yeah, Bruno Redondo, who's been on the run since Tom Taylor's taken over. And there's so many cool character moments here. There's one point where he's just jumping from car to car. He lands on the ground, and somebody gives him his motorcycle. You saved my parents, Nightwing. Please use this. Um, uh, Barbara eventually meets up, but what is really like just a very sparse little bit. And look, there's Bitewing with his arf arf, if you can see there. It's just a really charming little story. It doesn't take long to read, but I can't, people have always played with the form of comic books, comic books that have inverted, that, are partially told upside down. I don't know. I know that there certainly have been similar things like John Byrne and some other people have done issues which were completely splash pages. I guess that's the closest equivalent that I can think of. But for the, it's an ambitious intent and it pulls it off. So it's gone to, I think, a third printing already. So even if you're not a regular Nightwing reader, you don't need to be. It's all spelled out for you in the issue from the exposition that's contained on pages 1 through 3. You'll know exactly what's happening, and it's just a really, really valuable story. I thought really interesting experiment to see if they could pull this off, and they totally pulled this off. It totally felt like a continuous scene, and really loved it. Nightwing 87.
James is agreeing with you there. Bruno Redondo's been nailing it every month on Nightwing, and number 87 is fantastic. And John Runyon, of course, we all know Scarecrow runs Gotham now. So Fear State, After Effect. I think I read maybe the first 2 parts of Fear State and just was like, I can't go anymore.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't crazy about it, but I do want to give Mario Tamaki a lot of credit because she made it work as about the best anybody could over in Detective Comics.
Those were the better issues.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing with Marco. Like, even when you have to follow an event, good writers still make their books work. Regardless of what.
I liked what Ram V was doing in Catwoman, but that could have been the background of any event, because it was such an insular storyline. And it just feels, this, we've talked about this in the show, the downfall of Gotham. It's just we've seen it before in No Man's Land. We've seen it time and time again, and it's played out. So, hopefully, we'll have at least a few years respite from that.
Okay, for the next destruction of Gotham.
So we are very late. It's 11:09. I know I told everybody that we should have like a second book to just do real quick. So if we can do them really quick, let's do them. So Steve, tell us about a second pick.
There you go. There it was. It was Star Wars High Republic Eye of the Storm #1. Just gives you some background on who the Nile are and who is running them. So if you've been reading High Republic, any of the books or the miniseries, I highly recommend that you pick this up because it gives you basically the whole story of who the Nile are, where they come from, and the person or people who have been running them this whole time.
All right. Over to Brian. Brian, what's the quick pick for you?
The Defenders. You can't see it. But thanks to a great recommendation from Caleb, the Defenders just wrapped up. Al Ewing and Javier Rodriguez. Not no one. There needs to be more dialogue about what they did here because it's universe or multiverse. No, universe building. I don't know. Whatever verse building. It's great character studies of a few characters, one of which Al Ewing obviously was more involved with the Masked Raider, but like Doctor Strange, She-Hulk, Galactus's mom, which if you had told me a year ago, I would be like, Galactus's mom is amazing. Like so much. Great series. 100%. And it's coming back for more is what they said. So,
and as far as I know, I brought this up on the comic book with John Runyon on his show. As far as I know, is that the only series that's followed up on elements of Marvel Comics 1000?
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I think it's been astounding. I love that they just played with all timelines of previous Defender lineups. People like, who the hell is Cloud? And I'm like, I remember.
I'd have to go back and check. I think maybe Jason Aaron's Avengers has touched on a little bit. I got to go look and see what would be in Marvel 1000, but it's definitely the best. And just to this point, that book plays with the actual medium and the mechanics of comics in a way that I haven't seen since like maybe Mazzucchelli.
Rodriguez has done it before though with the Nick Fury series. He did, I think. He's done it. I love him every time he shows up. I really, he's great.
But I totally agree with you, Brian. I think this should have had, this should be a much bigger news story than it's getting, and hopefully there's a trade afterlife with it because I love it. I love the Defenders.
So I haven't read a Defenders book since Fractions 12-issue maxi, and I absolutely loved that series. And I don't know what it is about Defenders, and I think Defenders, and I think sometimes Champions kind of goes through that as well, but there's just some really big event series that just for some reason, Hercules there, that just really make it. They don't have big sales. They don't, they don't get as much play or support or whatever from Marvel, either editorial or anybody, but they stick in my mind. I loved the Fraction Defenders, and I don't think I'll ever see that mix of characters together again, ever. In the way that they were presented there. But then, of course, like the original Defenders and like the other iterations of the Defenders in the 70s and the 80s, I mean, just they've always been really interesting and really, bizarre, but they've had some really cool beats, some really cool storylines. But like if you ask anybody about who the Defenders are, they're like, who?
I think Defenders works best as miniseries.
Yeah.
I think it's a good concept to have short spurts and just do it when you're ready. One of my favorite Defenders was when Giffen and DeMatteis and Kevin Maguire applied the Justice League International vibe to it, and it worked beautifully. It never worked with Avengers, but Defenders, with asshole Namor and Dormammu and Dormammu's sister, who really isn't getting the credit. It's so, I mean, just laugh out loud funny bits in it.
I will say I mistaken. Akko was the artist for the Nick Fury series, but similar style.
Gotcha.
And
that was
Javier Rodriguez.
That was the Robinson written.
Yeah. Javier Rodriguez has done other stuff within Marvel. That you should definitely check out. He's great. I think he did some Daredevil work, but I love the storytelling. This is advancing the medium and in such a great way. And thank you, Caleb, for recommending it.
And also don't feel hesitated. Don't feel any hesitation going back to the 70s stuff. There's some weird shit that goes on in there. I mean, the Blue Oyster Cult are in storylines, and you have 6 issues in a row that are named after their albums. There's some weird shit.
All the Steranko shit, like in the 70s, presaged a lot of this crazy stuff. So totally.
Okay, Caleb, tell us about another quickie there. For lack of a better term.
Quickie. Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, we're gonna have to have a conversation about you calling my boo an asshole later, Bill. We'll talk about that after the show.
What boo?
Namor.
He's an asshole.
Oh, he is. I know.
I mean, come on. He may be wonderful. He may, I know you'd be his boy, but he's an asshole.
100%. Yeah.
Right?
I can hold my breath for a while. All right, so just real quick. All right, so I'm going to preface this by wearing one of many Hulk shirts, multiple Hulks behind me, a very expensive Hulk poster behind me. I'm a fan. A shelf full of Hulk over there. Book I was going to talk about as my second is Hulk #3, written by Donny Cates, Ryan Otley, and Frank Martin on the colors. Big fan of Donny Cates, big fan of Frank Martin. I am not feeling this book nearly as much as I hoped I would. It's doing some weird stuff. I'm trying to limit myself to just thinking about this book on its own merits, no juxtaposition to the Immortal Hulk, which just wrapped up, because that's not fair to the book. Not fair to any book, just to be honest. But trying to judge this by its own merits. Bruce Banner is living inside of the Hulk's brain. He's brought his psyche in there, and he's running the Hulk like a spaceship, and he's taken off into the ether, the big thing that happens in number 3 is he lands on this planet. It's a little bit of a wrecking ball. It's the alternate Earth, it seems like, and another version of Bruce Banner is there talking to him. The way this planet is fueled is off of the Hulk's rage. He wraps it up to the fuel as he can make the Hulk think that he's seeing things like fighting Wolverine. So the Hulk's actual body is wearing one of these visors. And you can kind of see it here. That's essentially what he's doing. And so he just has him fighting a giant Wolverine to fuel his whatever. It's weird. I like Donny Cates. His concepts are cool. He's going out there and he's trying for it. It's just not landing with me. I am on record, and I will maintain being on record. I think Ryan Otley has one trick, and he does it really well, but he does not have anything else in his bag of tricks. He just does, like, everything looks the same, and after a while, it's just all right. You can't show me anything different as an artist, so it feels weird poo-pooing a Hulk book because this is my dude, but. For the just to remind people that I can be objective. This is not great, but you might love it. And as Bill often says, I love when my friends love things. So if you do, talk about it, because I would much rather hear somebody else tell me why they love a book than why they dislike it. But just to be objective on its merits, I'm not feeling this wrap up of Hulk. I'm kind of hoping that Otley does the Otley thing and just goes away and does something else for a little bit. And we get a different artist on here, and that might make me gravitate to it a little more. We'll see. I don't know. It's just, loving everything else Donny Cates is doing right now, just not this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We referenced earlier the impetus for La Bamba was the Batman Fortnite miniseries, particularly the first 2 issues that I didn't love. And my quickie, if you can believe it, is Batman Foundation Fortnite, the one shot that follows up on this. And I'll tell you why. First of all, as you can see here, there's Foundation and there's Batman and there's the Batman Who Laughs. This is actually co-written by Scott Snyder, and I believe it's better for it for this follow-up. The artist by Joshua Hickson. I'm not really too familiar with his work. I don't know if that's a name that anybody else has been, but I gotta tell you, the fella, he starts off the issue with the Justice League versus the Legion of Doom. That's not bad, and I think that's why I enjoyed this much more than the Foundation, the 0 Point series, is because I think interaction with Fortnite makes much more sense as a DC Universe concept than it does as a Batman concept. And, as we've seen over the last few years, sometimes the inclusion of the Batman Who Laughs is seismic. Sometimes it's gratuitous. In this, it absolutely makes perfect sense with some of the conceits about renewal within the Fortnite world. And I just enjoyed this so much more. I wish they had led with this. I really do, because I can't believe I'm recommending a Fortnite Batman book, but I am. It's also a one-shot.
We can't believe it. We can't believe
it's
you're
also a
recommending
one-shot.
it.
It stands on its own. It does set up the potential for some other stuff, which I think is it's a good hook to bring people in down the road for where one particular character is at the end of it. So that's my quickie. Is I can't believe I'm saying this. Batman Foundation Fortnite special.
So before we move on, Bill, you were asking about Josh Hickson. Yes, very, very familiar with him. If you read Chris Sebela's Shanghai Red, he did the art on that. But more importantly, or Sebela, but he is the artist behind a lot of Vault comics that I'm absolutely in love with.
Right.
He did the plot.
That's why I know the name.
He did some stuff on Barbaric. He is a driving force at Vault.
No, it's rare you see somebody do something new with Batman.
Yeah,
and I think he's coming close to it there. It's there's some nice stuff in here. I really liked his art.
Big fan of his. Really big.
Awesome.
Let me just tell you though, for Fortnite fans, the Foundation is huge because he is the big character you get this season, and he is the Rock. He is voiced by, and they used his visage, the Rock. It's a whole thing. So this is huge for DC and for Fortnite fans alike. So Very cool.
And Brian, I did send you the code for the cosmetic item for this.
I really appreciate that too.
Yeah, no problem.
It's so stupid, but I appreciate it. I do.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap this one up. Again, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast, and when we wrap a show up, we do so with a segment we call the Woofs of the Week segment. In the bear community, if you find a fellow attractive, you woof at him, and we do something similar. We woof at a film or a TV program or a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener or viewer, may be interested in sampling. We're going to have to accelerate this as well because it's we're against the clock. So, Steve, might have to abbreviate it a bit more than you used to, but tell us, what is your Woof of the Week?
So my Woof of the Week is actually for a prose writer, Shannon McGuire, who's also written comics. She did write at least one arc of Spider-Gwen. But anyway, while I was on vacation, I did read a lot of books, and a couple of the books that I read were from Shannon McGuire. She wrote this series, a YA series called The Wayward Children. I read the first 2 books in the series, Every Heart a Doorway and Down Among the Sticks and Bones, which are actually really cool. It takes the premise that those children that are whisked away to magical worlds in fairy tales and Alice in Wonderland and those kinds of kids, Wizard of Oz, that after they come back, they have a hard time readjusting to the normal world. And the books itself takes place, the book series itself takes place in a home for children like these. It's sort of like a boarding school and therapy house, whatever, for a lot of these children that come from these different backgrounds where they've been whisked away to other worlds. Also, a couple of the books do delve into their magical journeys, like how they got to that point. Where they were back in the real world. So it's very interesting. It's YA. They're very quick reads. They're like 200 pages a piece. But Shannon McGuire, very interesting, very prolific writer. So check her out.
All right. Over to Brian. Brian, what is your Woof of the Week?
If you are a fan of curling or you have no idea what curling is, go to Peacock. And I know most people probably don't subscribe, but for the first episode of this new series, you can watch the whole 30 minutes for free. It's called American Rock Stars. It's all about the U.S. men's curling team and their road to the 2022 Olympics. And it is narrated by, I would say, one of the more attractive parts of the modern television oeuvre, Nick Offerman. American Rock Stars. I mean, not like you get to see him. He's narrating it, but he's all up in your ear holes.
It's his voice.
The whole thing. It's his voice. And
his voice is like a warm hug.
The curlers that you get to talk to you get to meet, you get to hear from, they're real people having real adventures in life and having a real sort of Olympic journey. And they are amazing. American Rock Stars, 4 episodes, 30 minutes each on Peacock. Go check it out.
Okay, great. Over to Caleb. Caleb, what is your Woof of the Week?
All right, I'm going to stick over here just to see Bill smile, but my Woof of the Week actually goes out to a thing that's in previews right now. We don't talk about previews nearly enough, but it's fun stuff. And this was spotlit for me by our good friend Brian Newberry. He told me this was coming out because I haven't had a chance to flip through it yet. But you can order it right now. Go ahead and get your pre-orders in. But it is from Fantagraphics. It is called The Passion of Gengora Tagame, Master of Gay Erotica Manga, Volume 1, edited by Chip Kidd, Ann Ishel, and Graham Cobeans, with an introduction by Edmund White. It is in the previews now. Get your pre-orders in. I'm going to get it. It's awesome. Love some Gengora Tagame. Also, thank you to Brian for that wonderful little postcard you sent me.
Yes, thank you for those, Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
But that's my Woof of the Week. So go get that. Put it on your list. Buy it. Do it. It's homework.
Okay, I feel so bad. Like, I'm so conventional with my recommendations this week, but what the hell? This is something that premiered on January 14th. It feels like 100 years ago already. But if you haven't seen it yet, Archive 81 on Netflix. It stars Mamadou Athey and Dina Shahabi. And it tells the story of Dan, who is a film restorer, and he is tasked by the mysterious Mr. Davenport to recover the images and sounds that were recorded on these films that belong to PhD student Melody at the site of a residential building that burned down in 1994. And as Dan is going through the restorations, he finds out that he has a connection to Melody in various ways, and that there's more than meets the eye in regards to why he has been tasked with this. 8 episode series, I believe, right? Was that 8, Brian? I think. Yeah, it was 8. And it just, QAnon has made conspiracy theories not much fun. And, like I'll say this till I'm blue in the face, make conspiracy theories fun again. All right. So I'll leave you with that. All right, guys, it's been so cool getting back together with you. It's only been 4 or 5 weeks, but January and the holidays are always a weird time. And I know before we came on, I wasn't in the best mood, and I'm certainly in a much better mood now. So I thank you for that. All right.
Yay.
Again, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You can find us on the Twitter and the Tumblr and the Instagram as Comic Book Bears. You can find us on the Facebook as Comic Book Bears Podcast. If you want to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. If you want to listen to us, please do so by downloading us through Apple Podcasts, through we have maintained a long-time presence with Stitcher Radio and many of the other podcatching platforms. And if you are viewing us through the system that we call YouTube, please leave a review and please like us and follow us, because we would very much like to expand our profile on this platform. So until next time, I'm Billy Z.
I'm Brian Pittard.
I'm Steve Morey.
And I'm excited because my internet's not going to go out for this. I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
If you're listening, you're going to hear a woof and an explosion. We'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.